These are the richest black NBA players from Texas, and the list only gets crazier as we move. We're talking about a legend who built a $300 million real estate empire without ever taking out a loan, a player who forgot to pay rent of his newly bought restaurant and still had a $200 million Adidas deal in his pocket, and a player who turned a $2 million land purchase into a $13 million profit on a single transaction. Let's get into it. Number 8. DeAndre Jordan, the sustainable capitalist. DeAndre Jordan was born in Houston, played college ball at Texas A&M, and built a career that most people remember for one of the strangest nights in NBA free agency history, which we'll get to in a moment. His net worth sits at approximately $80 million off $176 million in career earnings. And what makes his financial story genuinely interesting is what he chose to do with that money once he had it. Jordan didn't chase the endorsement check or the restaurant franchise. He went into food technology, specifically plant-based food technology, at a time when most people in his circle were still laughing at the concept. He secured an early equity position in Beyond Meat before the company went public, capturing serious valuation growth on the way up. He's also an equity partner in Eat Just, the company behind the Just Egg product line, and hosts a plant-based cooking show called Cooking Clean on Players TV, the athlete-owned media network. The through line across all of it is consistency. Jordan identified a thesis, sustainability, and ESG-aligned investing, and has executed it patiently without chasing whatever the loudest trend happened to be. In 2020, he enrolled at Brown University to study contemplative studies, examining mindfulness, neuroscience, and human performance, which is either the most unexpected thing an NBA center has ever done with his offseason, or a perfectly logical move for someone who had already decided that his post-basketball life would look nothing like the standard athlete playbook. His foundation funds urban tree planting campaigns and support systems for single-parent households. His real estate acquisitions prioritize eco-friendly architectural design. The man is building something coherent and doing it quietly. Now, let's talk about the 2015 Dallas Mavericks situation. Jordan verbally agreed to a 4-year, $80 million contract with Dallas, then started having second thoughts. The Clippers, sensing the wavering, dispatched a delegation of players and executives, including DeAndre's teammates and close friends, who flew to Houston, showed up at his house, and physically stayed inside with him, blocking the door, until midnight, when the free agency window closed and he re-signed with Los Angeles for $88 million. His teammates posted lock emojis on social media in real time. The Mavericks were left furious. Jordan eventually did play for Dallas years later, which resolved some of the tension, but the story has never fully left him because in Texas, they remember. Number 7. Dwight Howard, the physical phenomenon. Dwight Howard accumulated $245 million in NBA salary across a career that made him one of the most dominant defensive centers of his generation. And the financial story of what happened to that money is one of the more instructive cautionary tales in professional sports. Not because he was reckless in the obvious ways, but because the overhead that quietly eroded his position was structural rather than impulsive. His Houston tenure from 2013 to 2016, alongside James Harden, was supposed to be the foundation of a dynasty. It produced deep playoff runs and solidified his status as an elite defensive anchor, and his time in Texas came with the kind of real estate activity that athletes at his level typically generate. Significant property acquisitions across multiple states, a lifestyle infrastructure that reflected his earning power at the time. The problem, which became apparent gradually, was that the lifestyle infrastructure never scaled down when the contracts did. Howard's residential portfolio includes a 32,000 square foot estate in Suwanee, Georgia, 10 bedrooms, 21 bathrooms, an indoor basketball court, listed for $11.25 million in 2025. He also owns a Gothic mansion in Longwood, Florida, that he purchased for $7.8 million in 2008 and listed for $4.9 million in 2025, representing a significant loss after 17 years of ownership. These are not the assets of someone who mismanaged money in a single dramatic moment. They're the assets of someone whose cost structure assumed a continuous maximum salary income that eventually stopped arriving. The personal legal entanglements compounded the financial picture. Howard has fathered multiple children with different women, producing a sustained pattern of child support litigation that has played out across multiple state courts, including Texas. A 2015 lawsuit filed in Harris County alleged he failed to honor a private $10,000 per month child support agreement. The subsequent proceedings with former partner Royce Reed involved years of litigation, alleged financial intimidation, and garnished bank accounts. Whatever the specific merits of each case, the aggregate legal overhead across multiple simultaneous proceedings represents a level of recurring expense that would stress any portfolio. His automotive collection, which includes a Conquest Night 15 armored truck worth over $600,000 and a custom Rolls-Royce Ghost painted deep purple as a tribute to the Marvel character Thanos, suggests someone whose relationship with asset acquisition never fully recalibrated to match his post-peak earning reality. Dwight Howard's career is a masterclass in why income management and estate planning cannot be an afterthought at this level. Number 6. James Harden, the Houston King. James Harden spent 9 seasons in Houston, transforming from a 6th Man of the Year into an MVP and 3-time scoring champion. And during that run, he embedded himself into the city's commercial fabric more deeply than almost any athlete has embedded themselves into a market not named Michael Jordan in Chicago. His net worth sits at approximately $165 million, but the mechanism behind it goes well beyond the $200 million Adidas contract that most people think of when his name comes up. The Adidas deal, signed in 2015 for 13 years, is genuinely substantial, and it has provided a continuous revenue floor that most athletes never have access to. But the move that actually restructured Harden's financial position was his early equity investment in Body Armor, the sports drink brand that positioned itself as the athlete-owned alternative to Gatorade. When Coca-Cola acquired Body Armor in 2021 for $5.6 billion, Harden's return on that early stake dwarfed years of endorsement income in a single transaction. That is the difference between an endorsement deal and an equity position. One pays you while you're famous, the other pays you based on what the company becomes regardless of what you're doing at the time. He also owns a 5% stake in the Houston Dynamo and Houston Dash, the MLS and NWSL franchises, acquired in 2019 for approximately $15 million. Major League Soccer franchise valuations have climbed significantly since then, meaning that stake has appreciated considerably. The fine dining restaurant 13 in Midtown Houston represented his hospitality ambition, and also his most visible commercial complication. In late 2025, 13 was locked by its landlord after falling over $2.2 million in arrears on unpaid rent and lease expenses. A lawsuit followed in Harris County Court seeking at least $1 million in damages, and separate litigation stemming from a 2023 drunk driving accident involving patrons leaving the premises added further legal exposure. For a man holding a $200 million Adidas contract and a significant MLS stake, the restaurant situation is less a financial crisis than a governance one. The operational discipline required to run a physical hospitality business is a completely different skill set from the financial discipline required to sign endorsement deals and buy equity stakes, and Harden appears to have underestimated that gap. The Houston strip club that reportedly retired his jersey and hung it from the rafters after he allegedly spent $1 million in a single night is either an urban legend or a data point about lifestyle overhead, depending on how generously you're reading the situation. Number 5. Kevin Durant, the venture capitalist from Austin. Kevin Durant spent 1 season at the University of Texas at Austin and did something no freshman in NCAA history had ever done: won the consensus National College Player of the Year award. That season made him the 2nd overall pick in the 2007 draft and set the trajectory for a career that would produce 2 NBA championships, 2 finals MVPs, a league MVP, and a business empire that has quietly become one of the most sophisticated athlete-led venture operations in American sports. 35 Ventures, the investment firm Durant runs with business partner Rich Kleeman, manages a portfolio of over 100 early-stage startups. The early bets were the ones that mattered most: Coinbase before it went public, Postmates before Uber acquired it, acorns at a stage when the financial app was still building its user base. These were not celebrity placements into rounds that were already oversubscribed. They were genuine early entry positions in companies that subsequently reached valuations that made the initial stakes worth multiples of what they cost. Durant has since maintained the discipline to keep deploying capital at early stages rather than chasing later-stage deals where the upside is already priced in. His sports media network boardroom has grown into a legitimate editorial operation covering the intersection of sports, business, and entertainment, original content, podcasts, executive events, building an audience that extends his commercial influence beyond anything a traditional endorsement arrangement could produce. The Nike lifetime deal provides the financial floor, an estimated $35 million annually, that underwrites the venture risk he takes through 35V. That combination, predictable high-floor income from Nike, aggressive upside exposure through a diversified venture portfolio, is structurally elegant in a way that most athlete financial strategies simply are not. His $3 million donation to the University of Texas Athletic Department in 2018, the largest single donation ever made by a former Texas basketball player, is the kind of move that means something beyond the check. It keeps him connected to the institution that built his platform, ensures his legacy there is institutionally anchored, and positions him as a stakeholder in the program's future, which is its own form of long-term brand investment. Number 4. Chris Paul, the point guard of institutional wealth. Chris Paul's 2 seasons with the Houston Rockets, from 2017 to 2019, produced some of the best basketball of his late career, including a Western Conference Finals run that came within one healthy hamstring of a finals appearance, and gave him 2 years inside the Texas tax structure at a point when he was earning maximum salary money. He used that window exactly the way a person who spent years as president of the NBA Players Association would, deliberately, with full awareness of the structural advantages available to him. His time in Houston also produced significant real estate activity in the Woodlands enclave north of the city, where he acquired premium properties and subsequently sold them for meaningful returns as the regional market climbed. Paul understands leverage, financial, positional, and structural, better than almost anyone who has played the game, which is not surprising for a man who was the primary architect of the modern maximum contract framework during his NBPA presidency. The same analytical mind that ran pick-and-roll coverage for 2 decades was also dissecting collective bargaining agreement language and identifying which provisions could be structured to protect veteran superstars. He benefited directly from some of those provisions, which critics have noted, but the counter-argument is that understanding a system well enough to shape it in your favor is a skill, not a scandal. His investment portfolio is genuinely global in its ambition. The minority stake in the Rajasthan Royals, which is a premier Indian Premier League cricket franchise, was an early cross-border equity play at a time when most American athletes were still figuring out that sports investment existed as a category. IPL franchise valuations have since climbed past $1 billion, driven by explosive digital and streaming rights contracts, meaning Paul's entry point looks increasingly prescient. His endorsement roster, State Farm, Jordan Brand, Tissot, Beyond Meat, is curated with the precision of someone who views each partnership as a portfolio decision rather than a paycheck. The State Farm relationship in particular has built his mainstream consumer recognition to a level that most athletes never achieve outside their sport, which extends the commercial runway of his personal brand well beyond his playing days. He also owns a $574,000 Mercedes-Maybach S680, a white Ferrari 458 Italia, and a Patek Philippe timepiece valued between $2.1 and $4.3 million, because at this level the assets are also a communication strategy. Number 3. Grant Hill, the Dallas aristocrat. Grant Hill was born in Dallas to a family that understood elite performance as a baseline expectation rather than an aspiration. His father, Calvin Hill, was an Ivy League-educated NFL running back who spent significant time with the Dallas Cowboys, which meant Grant grew up inside a world where professional excellence and financial sophistication coexisted as normal rather than exceptional. That foundation shaped everything that followed. His NBA career produced $140 million in salary across a tenure that was genuinely brilliant, before severe ankle injuries with the Orlando Magic nearly ended it entirely. The medical complications were serious enough that retirement seemed not just possible but likely for an extended period. What Hill did with that adversity, systematically restructuring his focus toward corporate board placement, sports broadcasting, and equity investment while his body recovered, is one of the cleaner examples of long-term strategic thinking under pressure in modern sports. He came back and played effectively for years longer than most people expected, then transitioned out of playing with the same deliberateness he'd applied throughout. The Fila deal is the cornerstone of his post-career financial position. The original 7-year, $80 million contract signed in 1997 was restructured into a lifetime arrangement that continues to generate an estimated $10 million annually. That recurring income, long after retirement, is the financial equivalent of a perpetuity. It doesn't require his attention, his presence, or his active labor. It just runs. His minority ownership stake in the Atlanta Hawks, acquired when franchise valuations were significantly lower than their current levels, has appreciated substantially as NBA media rights deals have pushed franchise prices to historic highs. Through Hill Ventures, his private investment vehicle, he has diversified further into commercial real estate development and private equity across low-tax jurisdictions, including Texas and Florida. His collection of African-American art is perhaps his most distinctive personal asset, one of the most extensive private collections in the world, featured in major national museums, and representing both a genuine cultural passion and a store of value that appreciates independently of market cycles. Hill built a portfolio that generates income from multiple directions simultaneously, with no single asset representing an existential concentration risk. That kind of structural diversification, rarely achieved by athletes, is the clearest expression of the financial sophistication his upbringing instilled. Number 2. Hakeem Olajuwon, the dream of Houston land. Hakeem Olajuwon arrived in Houston from Lagos as a raw athletic talent who had barely played organized basketball, became the greatest player in Rockets history, won back-to-back championships in 1994 and 1995, and then built a real estate empire worth approximately $300 million using a method that makes every other investor on this list look structurally vulnerable by comparison. No loans, no leverage, no interest payments. Ever. His Islamic faith prohibits riba, or the collection or payment of interest, which means the entire toolkit that real estate investors typically rely on to scale their portfolios is unavailable to him. No mortgage financing, no credit lines, no leveraged acquisition structures. Every property Olajuwon has ever purchased, he purchased outright in cash, which forces a discipline that most investors claim to have but few actually maintain when cheap debt is available. The result is a portfolio with zero bank exposure, meaning no lender can force a sale, no credit contraction can trigger a foreclosure, and no market downturn creates an existential liquidity crisis. He holds until valuations peak, then he sells. The only variable is time, and Olajuwon has always been willing to wait. His acquisition strategy within Houston is specific and repeatable. Identify undervalued land near municipal transit hubs, major stadiums, and master-planned development corridors. Purchase it entirely with liquid capital, hold it while the surrounding development drives appreciation, and sell to institutional developers at double or quadruple the initial outlay. The piece of land that most people would have called swampland, he calls an opportunity. He turned a $2 million purchase into a $13 million profit on a single transaction using exactly that logic. The portfolio includes the Houston World Trade Center, the former Federal Reserve Bank building, which he converted into a mosque and community center, redirecting real estate capital directly into cultural infrastructure, and the historic West Mansion along Clear Lake, a Mediterranean estate on 41 acres built in 1929. That last acquisition drew criticism from preservationists who feared demolition, which speaks to the occasional tension between his commercial land optimization approach and the city's architectural heritage interests. He splits his time between his Houston ranch and Jordan, where he pursues Islamic and classical studies. The DR34M fashion line runs in the background. Everything operates on his timeline, debt-free, with the patience of someone who has never needed to sell anything before he was ready to. Number 1. Shaquille O'Neal, the $400 million conglomerate. Shaquille O'Neal grew up as a military kid, moved frequently, and landed in San Antonio, Texas, where he attended Robert G. Cole High School and led his basketball team to a 68-1 record and a state championship. That Texas foundation built the physical and competitive infrastructure for a career that produced 4 NBA championships, 3 Finals MVPs, a league MVP, 15 All-Star selections, and $300 million in playing salary. But the career is almost beside the point when you look at what Shaq has built financially, because the $400 million net worth he sits on today was constructed almost entirely through business decisions, not basketball contracts. The intellectual property move is the one that changed everything. Rather than signing traditional fixed-term endorsement contracts that pay well while you're famous and then expire, O'Neal sold the licensing rights to his name and likeness to Authentic Brands Group in exchange for a significant equity stake in the conglomerate. ABG manages a multi-billion-dollar portfolio of global brands, and Shaq is its second-largest individual shareholder. That means every time any ABG-managed brand generates revenue anywhere in the world, O'Neal's equity position captures a portion of that value. He converted his personal brand from a depreciating asset, fame that fades as playing years recede, into a permanent equity stake in a licensing machine that compounds independently of how old he gets or how far removed from his playing days he becomes. That is a fundamentally different financial structure from anything a traditional endorsement deal produces. The franchise model runs in parallel. He has owned and liquidated over 100 Five Guys burger locations, multiple car washes, fitness centers, and continues building Big Chicken, his fast casual dining brand, into a national chain. He rejected a massive Nike renewal early in his career to launch his own affordable shoe line with Reebok, showing early market segmentation instincts, identifying that the mass market wanted performance footwear they could actually afford, and eventually returned to Reebok as president of basketball. The diversity of operational businesses, each generating independent cash flows, creates a portfolio resilience that purely investment-focused wealth does not. His DJ Diesel persona, performing at global music festivals, releasing music, maintaining cultural relevance across demographics that have no memory of his playing career, is a calculated strategy to stay commercially active in markets where nostalgia alone wouldn't carry his brand. His Georgia estate is custom-engineered to his 7-foot 1-inch frame, with modified doorways, reinforced furniture, a personalized indoor basketball court, and a recording studio. His automotive fleet features armored luxury vehicles modified to accommodate his physique. Everything around Shaq is built specifically for Shaq, which, when you have a $400 million net worth and a frame that doesn't fit standard specifications, is both a practical necessity and an entirely reasonable use of resources. The San Antonio roots have never been fully shed. Texas shaped Shaquille O'Neal during the years that matter most, the formation years, and the state's tax and real estate environment has remained a consistent fixture in his asset strategy throughout his post-playing career. The conglomerate that carries his name started on a basketball court in San Antonio and became something considerably more permanent. And that's a wrap on the 8 richest black NBA players in Texas. All of them prove one thing: Texas doesn't just produce basketball players. It produces a specific kind of competitor who understands that the court is where you build the platform, and the platform is just the beginning. So which player's financial story surprised you most? Drop it in the comments. And if you're not subscribed to Black Status yet, you already know what to do.